Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure and honor to introduce my friend and member of the Memorial Fund's Board of Directors, the National President of Concerns of Police Survivors, Brenda Donner.
Good evening. Thank you, Craig, CEO of the National Law Enforcement Memorial Fund, for inviting me to share my story as the child of a fallen officer. Thank you also to our other speakers tonight, dignitaries, and distinguished guests, including survivors of law enforcement line of duty death. I'm going to deviate for a second because someone made me cry today. Jimmy Waldron, and I don't cry. Jimmy Waldron came up to me moments ago and told me that he rode for my dad in the Police Unity Tour, and I have the bracelets. So I've called my talk, When is Daddy Coming Home? May 14th, 1966. 50 years ago tomorrow, my police officer dad died in the line of duty during a vehicle pursuit. Clifton Thomas Miller of the Rossford, Ohio Police Department was only 30 years old. His survivors included not only his parents, but his siblings, extended family members, friends, our community, and his co-workers. Daddy also left behind my widowed mother and 5 children, the oldest of whom was 8. His 6th child was born 8 months and 2 weeks after his death, while another child died at 3 months of age. Back then, there were few, if any, state or local memorials or annual services to honor fallen law enforcement officers. There was no public safety officers' benefit or state benefits. There were no memorial bike rides. The National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial and Concerns of Police Survivors were not even in the conceptual stage when Daddy died. There was no support organization like C.O.P.S with other survivors who get it. There was no marble or granite wall for us to touch or to trace Daddy's name. We did not have honor guard escorts and ceremonies to share with other survivors. The residents of our small town of Rossford did what they could to help us financially, but too many times we needed more. Like most of us here tonight, we needed to meet others who had experienced the loss of their officer, who could answer our questions and offer support. The National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial was dedicated on October 15, 1991, a full 25 years after Daddy died. Our family knew nothing about it. The Memorial Fund CEO, Craig Floyd, and others have shared how survivors, politicians, supporters, and law enforcement gathered at the memorial site for the inaugural reading of names during the dedication event. My dad's name was probably read during the 14th hour, even though we were totally unaware of the memorial or its dedication at the time. We appreciate the ceremony, recognition, and honor that accompanied the reading of all of the names at that time. Concerns of Police Survivors, or C.O.P.S, was founded in 1984, 18 years after my dad died. Over the years, C.O.P.S services have grown and expanded as needs and budget have allowed. Today, C.O.P.S is here to help rebuild shattered lives of survivors and co-workers affected by a line of duty death through partnerships with law enforcement and communities. I learned of C.O.P.S around the year 2000 and attended my first National Police Week as a survivor in 2002. The first year that I attended the retreat offered by C.O.P.S for my survivor type was in 2004. It was at this adult children's retreat that I found others just like me. They too had lost a law enforcement parent in the line of duty. And it began to dawn on me that I didn't have to bear the weight of losing my parent all alone. The knowledge that others were just like me lifted what I thought was my solitary burden. It doesn't matter if your officer died this year or half a century ago. At C.O.P.S retreats, we bond and support each other. We listen, learn, and inspire each other. Our base is the collective commonality of losing our law enforcement officer. And we demonstrate to the next generation that it's okay to grieve, to search for answers, to share. I hope that you too will understand that at your retreats, you don't need to bear your burden of loss alone. I was a young child when my dad died, with no memories of him. A few of my siblings have bits and pieces of memory, but between us, we do not have a three-dimensional picture of who our dad was. I figure he was tall because I'm 5'10" and my mother's 5'2". All 6 of Daddy's surviving children look just like him, dark hair, dark eyes. We have some photographs, so we know that. So while we got the visual of our dad, we never got a grip on what he was like as a flesh and blood person. People, then as now, may be apprehensive to answer children's questions about their parent, perhaps fearful of causing more trauma, upsetting the child, or triggering tears, including theirs. It's okay. Please trust me when I tell you, answer the kids' questions. Provide information and facts. Help kids understand that they are not at fault for what happened. They didn't do anything wrong. Otherwise, children will create stories that are far worse than reality. As I mentioned, I have no memories of my dad. I would have appreciated stories to help paint a complete picture, but adults, perhaps in an effort to protect us or avoid their own pain, didn't fill any blanks for us. When we'd ask what Daddy was like, we'd get a figurative and sometimes literal pat on the head and a response of, quote, "He was a good man." That was well-meaning but worthless in our attempts to make a three-dimensional explanation out of our dad, to make him a person. In the absence of concrete explanations, and speaking as the child of a fallen officer, children will make up their own truths. And here's my truth. I grew up thinking that I was a horrible child, that Daddy didn't like me, and that's why he died. I know now that feelings of abandonment are normal, but I didn't know it when I needed to. Please don't think you're protecting the fallen officer's children with your actions or inactions, what you say, or by your silence. We will fill in our own blanks, and those made-up truths can be far more painful than the facts. I want to take this moment to acknowledge my mom. The strength she found to raise us while suffering her overwhelming grief is unimaginable. I mentioned that we all have Dad's features of dark hair and dark eyes. Every time Mom saw us, she saw Daddy. She didn't sign up to have 7 kids and then have her husband die in the line of duty before she was 30 years old. Mom, thank you. You rock. I recently read a poem that I believe is pertinent to all of us gathered here tonight. Canadian poet Christiane Martin Zutaudis writes, "Don't cry for me. I'm not gone. My soul is at rest. My heart lives on. Light a candle for me to see and hold onto my memory. But save your tears, for I'm still here, by your side throughout the years." The National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Wall, upon which our officers' names are engraved, this candlelight vigil tonight, the National Peace Officer Memorial Ceremony on the 15th, and sessions provided by C.O.P.S help each of us honor our officer and chart our own healing path. For me, there is tragic strength in knowing that over 20,000 officers' families have traveled this road that we share tonight and for the rest of our lives. I urge each of you to take advantage of all that this week offers. And I pray for the day when no officer's child has to ask, when is mommy or daddy coming home?